Harry and Meghan took off for Jordan. Now, the reason I'm making this face is because it's such an interesting choice.
The trip that Prince Harry and Meghan has been taking in the Middle East is something that a lot of people who I saw complain about them not highlighting issues such as what's going on in Gaza. I don't see the same people giving them the credit when they're actually doing it now, but then they wanted to attack them when it looked like they wasn't helping. Isn't it funny how that worked?
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's chaotic and totally baffling trip to Jordan has exploded into controversy. Reports are spilling that the couple visited a Jordanian NGO called QuestScope, and here's where it gets wild. Several of its employees have allegedly shared pro-Hamas posts online. This isn't just a bad look, it's a full-blown PR disaster. Now, this whole mess reignites the debate. Should Harry and Meghan finally be stripped of their royal titles and official privileges, or should the monarchy step in and rein them back under control? Because let's be real, if they were still working royals under the palace's supervision, this meeting would have been stopped before it even happened. The royal family has protocols to avoid situations like this, but King Charles seems too hesitant to draw a firm line with them. And because of that, they keep acting independently, making risky moves, and, as Tom Sykes said, humiliating him with every stunt. So, let's dig into this train wreck. Why are Harry and Meghan even in Jordan? Nobody really knows for sure. It seems like another last-minute setup by their PR team, Sunshine Sachs, trying to craft some positive optics, but it totally backfired. The timing and the choice of organization make it look sloppy and poorly researched. What's worse, the connection to QuestScope raises serious eyebrows. This is the same group reportedly linked to pro-Hamas content, and we all know Hamas is behind the October 7th terrorist attacks and still controls Gaza today. It's shocking that no one from their team vetted this better before going public with it. What a scandal. Hamas is still accused of using innocent people as human shields, men, women, and even children. Many were reportedly abused, tortured, and some even killed, while others were taken hostage in ways too horrific to imagine. That's the brutal reality behind the conflict that's left countless Gaza refugees trapped in chaos. Yes, there were displaced people before, but the most recent crisis erupted because of the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas, a situation that continues to devastate lives every single day. And now for Harry and Meghan to meet with a group allegedly tied to that same chaos? That's a major red flag. It's the kind of scandal that simply wouldn't happen if they were still under the royal system's control. This is exactly the danger of being rogue royals. No vetting, no accountability, just acting on impulse. Either they didn't check properly or they just didn't care. Maybe they told themselves, we're not being political, so it's fine. Or that's just what employees post privately. It has nothing to do with us. But come on, that's not how this works when you carry royal titles. Sure, royals sometimes have to meet controversial figures. It's part of the diplomatic game. Even Prince William once met the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, despite all the controversy surrounding him and the journalist's death. But those meetings are formal, calculated, and necessary for state relations. What Harry and Meghan did in Jordan feels completely different. Random, careless, and unnecessary. It's like they're chasing influence without thinking about the consequences. What a risky move. Seriously, what was even the point of this visit? It's confusing from every angle. And while I don't know much about the outlet Honest Reporting, they seem strongly pro-Israel, so that's worth keeping in mind. What they published here hits a very real concern. They broke the story titled Exclusive. Prince Harry and Meghan visit Jordan NGO, employing staff who posted pro-Hamas content. And wow, that headline alone says it all. The report laid out 3 key takeaways, and they're hard to ignore. First, it stressed that humanitarian work requires serious due diligence. If any staff members at an NGO have shared Hamas-aligned content, it's crucial for public figures to vet organizations carefully before associating with them. That's not just a guideline, it's common sense. You can't show up somewhere with your royal titles, shake hands, and not know who you're standing next to. But to be completely fair, Honest Reporting might not realize the irony here. Harry and Meghan don't usually add credibility to any organization they visit. If anything, their involvement often hurts reputations. Over time, people have pulled back from brands tied to them. Some even canceled their Netflix subscriptions out of frustration. It might not be millions, but it's definitely enough to make headlines. Their names just seem to divide audiences instead of inspiring support. So honestly, this visit might end up backfiring on Questscope instead of helping it. It's like every step they take ends up sparking a new controversy. And oh, by the way, we can't ignore Meghan's fashion choices on this trip because wow, even that's become a talking point. A fashion journalist who's met Meghan before had some absolutely hilarious things to say about her outfit this time. We'll be breaking that down soon. It's too good not to discuss. Believe it or not, Meghan's outfits and facial expressions are apparently saving lives now. At least, that's what some of her fans claim. They say her fashion brings awareness, which sounds dramatic, but hey, we'll unpack all that later on Royal Fashion News. For now, let's get into something far more serious, because this next point hits hard. The article nailed it when it said, not being political isn't a shield in a region where symbolism matters. That line is powerful. In the Middle East, even small gestures carry huge meaning. Meeting with people connected to extremist messaging, whether you meant to or not, automatically has political weight. There's no escaping that. And then comes the question everyone's asking, where's the transparency? What kind of vetting was done? What safeguards were in place before this visit? When you're using your platform for advocacy, people expect accountability, not blind compassion. That's 100% true, especially in the NGO world, where there's a mix of genuinely good organizations and some very questionable ones. Let's be real. Plenty of NGOs end up being fronts for grifters chasing money or power. That's why proper vetting isn't optional. It's essential. Something Harry and Meghan clearly didn't do this time. This whole thing screams last-minute scramble. It doesn't look like it was planned months in advance, despite what some fans might claim. And honestly, the timing feels suspicious. Prince William just visited Saudi Arabia, and suddenly, a couple of weeks later, Harry and Meghan pop up in the same region. That can't just be coincidence. It feels like they're trying to match or outshine him, proving they can play the same global game, maybe even better. But that constant need to compete makes their moves look desperate instead of diplomatic. What a tangled royal mess this is turning into. People keep saying, this is what royals should be doing. But seriously, what are Harry and Meghan actually doing here? They're not experts. They don't offer real solutions, and they definitely don't have the kind of influence they once did. Sure, they've got some cash, but let's be honest, that royal level money, gone. Their big Hollywood deals have either dried up or fizzled out, and their brand doesn't shine like it used to. Look at their projects. Most of them aren't taking off. Meghan's side ventures have stalled, and her business ideas keep flopping one after another. And now she's out here using this Jordan trip to grab headlines again, conveniently right before launching yet another product, this time a luxury bookmark that says, "Hold that thought" in fancy cursive. It's hard not to see how self-serving that looks. This isn't what royals are supposed to do. It's what struggling influencers do when they're trying to stay relevant. Then there's the World Health Organization, which apparently hosted them for this visit. And let's not forget, the WHO's top figure has faced major criticism in the past. Many accused him of being too close to China during the pandemic and mishandling key parts of the COVID response. There were even other controversies floating around him, though they've faded from the headlines now. Still, it makes you wonder, what was he thinking bringing Harry and Meghan into the mix? Honestly, this looks more like a PR setup than a humanitarian mission. It feels like Sunshine Sachs, their go-to PR firm, cooked this up to generate attention for both the WHO and the Sussexes. Everyone gets a little publicity boost, but at what cost? It's another glossy photo op dressed up as charity work with no real substance behind it. The whole thing just screams desperate brand management, not meaningful royal duty. What a spectacle. At this point, it feels like Harry and Meghan don't actually help anyone.
So I'm confused on the Sussexes humanitarian trips. And I know they do it under Archwell, who partner with Who, but then they have a lifestyle brand, but then they go to these other countries and they have a tour. And does the Archwell Foundation pay for all this, including security when they do this? And wouldn't it be better, instead of the money spent touring it and the photo op just give the organization the actual money?
Every time they show up, things just get messier. Anyone with real sense would probably just tell them, no thanks, go home. Their entire Jordan trip was announced less than 24 hours in advance, supposedly for security reasons. But let's be honest, it also screams last-minute chaos. They met in Amman with WHO officials and other humanitarian reps, even connected with UN-linked groups trying to make it look like a serious diplomatic mission. Then came their high-profile visit to the Zaatari refugee camp, home to tens of thousands of displaced Syrians, a place filled with heartbreaking stories and real suffering. But despite all that, it's their final stop that's now causing major uproar. That last visit was to a youth center run by QuestScope, a Jordanian NGO that claims to focus on empowering young people and helping vulnerable communities. Sounds great on paper, right? But then came the bombshell. Honest Reporting reviewed public social media posts from several staff members tied to QuestScope, and what they found was shocking. Those posts reportedly went way beyond humanitarian work. We're talking about images glorifying Hamas-affiliated fighters, praise for armed resistance, graphics celebrating rocket attacks from Gaza, and posts repeating claims that Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine. Honest Reporting even verified that these accounts do belong to actual QuestScope employees. That's not just awkward, that's politically explosive. Now, it's true. The Jerusalem issue is complex. For those who support Israel, this kind of content is extremely concerning. But historically speaking, Jerusalem was claimed as the capital of Palestine during its brief recognition period decades ago. Still, when public figures like Harry and Meghan step into a setting this politically charged without thorough research, they walk straight into controversy. It's baffling how no one on their team saw this storm coming. What a risky and avoidable blunder. So here's where things get even more serious. We're talking about imagery tied to organizations officially labeled as terrorist groups by both the US and the UK. That's not just a minor controversy, that's a major international red flag. One staff member, identified as Mohammed Askar, reportedly shared a photo showing masked militants wearing Hamas headbands. And in another post, there were messages that closely mirrored Hamas narratives during moments of violent escalation. That's alarming on so many levels. Nobody, absolutely nobody, should be firing rockets or promoting violence. Yet these are the kinds of posts linked to QuestScope staff, including people in real positions of responsibility. Mohammed Askar, listed as an office assistant and operations officer, even has the Palestinian flag in his online bio. Then there's the Jordan acting country director and a quality assurance officer, both tied to posts raising eyebrows for the same kind of content. One particular post from October 2024 stood out. A staff member wrote, "And in October, we came to have a deep-seated love." Now, it didn't directly mention the October 7th massacre or Israel by name, but in today's political climate, the word October has become loaded. In some circles, it's shorthand for the Hamas attack, which makes the phrase feel deeply unsettling. The undertones are impossible to ignore. Let's make this clear. Supporting Palestinian civilians is completely legitimate and humane. But glorifying or amplifying material tied to Hamas crosses a serious line. Hamas isn't a protest group or symbolic resistance. It's a US and UK designated terrorist organization responsible for horrific acts of violence, hostage-taking, and civilian deaths. When people connected to a humanitarian NGO publicly share that kind of content, it stops being political expression and turns into something far darker. And for Harry and Meghan to have aligned themselves, even unintentionally, with an organization shadowed by this kind of controversy, that's an absolute disaster. At that point, it stops being political. It turns into extremist alignment. This article is actually raising some really serious questions, and honestly, it deserves attention. I haven't even finished the whole piece yet, but what's already out there is explosive. If Harry and Meghan want to carry themselves as global humanitarians under the royal banner, then they've got a moral and ethical duty to know exactly who they're meeting with, and clearly they didn't. Before this trip, a source close to the Sussexes told British outlets that the visit was non-political and shouldn't be seen as taking sides. But that claim doesn't hold up anymore. When high-profile figures like Harry and Meghan publicly support or platform an organization whose staff have shared content aligned with a designated terrorist group, neutrality isn't protection. It's an excuse. The issue stops being about politics and becomes about judgment and accountability. So the big question is, were Harry and Meghan even aware of what these Questscope staff members had posted online? Did their team actually check any of this before attaching royal prestige to the organization's name? All signs point to no. And if they didn't, why not? This kind of vetting is the absolute bare minimum for anyone operating on an international stage, let alone two people who still use royal titles. It feels like they didn't bother because they were too focused on competing, trying to stay relevant, trying to prove they can operate on a global level without the palace. But that obsession with keeping up the image has consequences. When you rush to act without doing the homework, mistakes like this happen. Big, public, embarrassing ones. If they did know about the staff's posts and went through with the visit anyway, that's even worse. Either way, it's a total mess that makes their humanitarian image look fake and careless. No matter how you look at it, the message this sends is bad, really bad. Humanitarian work doesn't make anyone immune from criticism. And that line from the article nailed it perfectly. Humanitarian engagement does not grant immunity from scrutiny. That's such a powerful statement, and it fits Harry and Meghan to a T. Just because they wave the humanitarian flag and occasionally do something positive doesn't mean they get a free pass when things go wrong. In the Middle East, where every gesture carries symbolic meaning and propaganda spreads faster than facts, public associations have serious consequences. This isn't about attacking aid work. Helping civilians is crucial, and no one's arguing against that. It's about standards, the responsibility that comes with influence. When figures who claim to be neutral end up promoting or aligning with organizations whose staff have shared content connected to a terrorist group, that's not neutrality. That's negligence. And at a time when anti-Semitism is climbing worldwide and Hamas, officially designated as a terrorist group by both the US and the UK, continues its campaign of violence, casual or careless associations become even more dangerous. You can't claim humanitarian intent and then act surprised when people question your choices. What makes this even more complicated is Meghan's long-standing public image as a champion for women and girls. She supported women's employment through SmartWorks, backed menstrual health programs in India, and funded refugee aid and girls' education projects. Those are admirable causes, no doubt, but when she steps into a region this politically charged and links herself to an NGO clouded by extremist content, that image starts to crumble. It's like her words and her actions no longer match up, and that disconnect is exactly what fuels the backlash. Every move they make now feels like a test, and they're failing it in real time. Exactly. Humanitarian work requires real standards. And this part of the article cuts deep. The October 7th attacks by Hamas included horrifying, documented acts of sexual violence against women, along with reports of brutal abuse toward Israeli hostages held in captivity. For someone like Meghan, who's built her entire public image around empowering women and defending their rights, even the slightest link, direct or indirect, to an organization connected to messaging that sympathizes with Hamas is disturbing. It raises huge, unavoidable questions about her judgment and awareness. Advocacy isn't something you can turn on and off when it's convenient. You can't be fiercely outspoken about women's rights in one situation and then stay silent or uninformed in another.
Unfortunately, the British tabloids are always focused on the wrong thing, because even though she's there with Harry to promote these charities and to talk about, what they're doing and how they're helping these refugees, they have to talk about how they're embarking on a quasi-royal tour, because if anyone can do it, then it's not special when it's a royal tour, is it? But the thing is, anyone can do it.
If Harry and Meghan truly believed this trip was purely humanitarian, then they owe everyone clear answers. What kind of vetting was done? What safeguards were in place? And most importantly, what message do they think this visit actually sends? Because real humanitarian credibility isn't just about showing compassion, it's about exercising sound judgment while doing it. And honestly, if you look at their official website, Sussex.com, it barely says anything. It's just a handful of glowing lines about how compassionate and inspiring they are. Mostly focused on Meghan, the whole thing feels more like self-promotion than substance. She's always pictured touching people, hugging everyone, wrapping her arm around Harry like she's making a statement every time. Maybe she thinks it looks warm and relatable, but to many, it just comes off as overly staged and a bit strange. It's like she's constantly trying to prove how caring she is, even when the situation calls for professionalism instead of performance. What a contradiction. Why is Charles still trying to hold everything together when it's clearly falling apart? At this point, he needs to accept the truth. Harry and Meghan just don't care. The vision he once had of a united royal family under his reign is gone, and no amount of wishful thinking is going to bring it back. That dream has already died, and clinging to it only makes the situation worse. Sometimes you just have to let go, and this is one of those times, because let's be real, Harry and Meghan are doing irreparable damage to the monarchy's reputation. And with Prince Andrew's scandals still haunting the family, the last thing Charles needs is more rogue royals running around acting like they're still part of the system. There has to be a line. They either hold titles or they don't. They're either in the royal family or they're not. They're either working royals or private citizens. You can't have it both ways. The current in-between chaos only makes Charles look weak and indecisive. Right now, Harry and Meghan are behaving like they can do whatever they want, using their royal status to open doors while pretending they're independent humanitarians. It's a dangerous game, especially when people abroad might mistake them for official representatives of the British monarchy or even the government. Interestingly, while the British ambassador seemed a little too eager to indulge the couple, the Jordanian royals kept things much more restrained. And that speaks volumes. Only one peripheral royal member showed up with them. King Abdullah, Queen Rania, and Crown Prince Hussein all refused or declined to meet with Harry and Meghan directly. That's a quiet but powerful statement in royal diplomacy, a polite way of saying, we see the drama and we want no part of it. It's clear that other monarchies are distancing themselves too, and that should be a serious wake-up call for Charles. That definitely sends a strong message. The king's aunt might still be connected to the foundation and attended the event, but the real headline here is that King Abdullah himself, who's believed to either head or play a major role in the Hashemite Fund, refused to meet with Harry and Meghan. That's not just protocol, that's a clear diplomatic signal. Other royal families are starting to show quiet resistance to the Sussex circus, and honestly, it's about time. But now the question is, will King Charles finally push back too? He keeps waiting, hoping everything will magically fix itself, dreaming of that perfect family reunion moment where everyone hugs it out and sings in harmony. But that's not how this story ends. The longer he waits, the weaker the monarchy looks, and by the time the dust settles, he might not even have much of a throne left to defend. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan have once again turned what could have been a meaningful visit into another public spectacle. Their time in Jordan, mixed up with WHO appearances and bad optics, feels like a self-inflicted disaster, and the World Health Organization's decision to indulge this whole charade, still a mystery. This entire trip has exposed how far the Sussexes will go for attention, and how far the monarchy still has to go to repair its image. If you've been following this royal chaos, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Let's hear what you think about this royal mess. Do you think King Charles should finally take action, or is it already too late?